Maxon just released their long-awaited fluid simulation tools in the newest update 2025.3. In this video, I'm going to give a quick overview of how I created this bubble setup, as well as how this new system compares to other tools like Houdini. If you'd like to check out the project files, they'll be available on my Patreon, and that link is in the description. So let's get to it. Was it worth the wait? Just a quick disclaimer that this isn't a traditional tutorial as much as it is a breakdown of the project and how to implement the liquid tools. Because the new fluids are part of the unified simulation system, it works with any standard emitter. In this case, I'm using a mesh emitter with a sphere as my emission source. I set the emission rate relatively high as we need a large amount of particles for a good fluid result. In the simulation modifiers menu, there's a new option called Liquify. Once you add this to your scene, the particles will start behaving more like a liquid. I'll disable this modifier so you can see how it looks without the Liquify. And as you can see, the particles are responding to the turbulence just like traditional particles. With no gravity and the turbulence disabled, the underlying emission is very straightforward as the sphere moves along the path. The global gravity controls are in the Scene menu under Simulation and finally in the Scene tab. Let's take a look at the Liquify modifier in isolation. If you're used to a proper flip implementation in something like Houdini, this menu is shockingly basic. These are all the main controls for the fluid outside of some iteration options buried elsewhere. If you've worked with fluid simulations before, the options for density, viscosity, and surface tension should be pretty familiar. There are also controls for mass, friction, stickiness, and damping. When I zero out the viscosity and surface tension, you can see more clearly the effect that they have on the particle system. If I disable damping, which acts similar to air resistance, the particles in motion maintain their velocity since there's no gravity in our scene. To turn your liquefied particles into a mesh, there's a new item in the simulation menu called Liquid Mesh. Influence scale controls the distance at which particles are meshed together or are considered droplets. Surface offset expands or contracts the fluid mesh. You can think of steps as something like a volume resolution scaler. Higher steps result in a higher resolution mesh provided you have enough particles to represent the surface. In the smooth section, we have two options for smoothing, which are geometry smoothing and normal smoothing, and they're both pretty self-explanatory. The droplet section is basically a post-processing effect to filter out unwanted droplets from influencing the overall mesh. I can see this being useful if you have an otherwise good-looking simulation that has a few stray particles. The last thing I did to the fluid mesh was run it through the volume builder to smooth it out a bit. Other than that, I added some basic materials and lighting and rendered out some cameras. Native fluid sims are long overdue in Cinema 4D, but this first pass seems largely incomplete. I have a feeling that this has to do with the boundaries of their unified physics system approach, but it's just missing things you'd expect from other software like foam generation and granular controls. I'm looking forward to seeing how it gets updated over time, but for now, it's really limited. If you'd like to mess around with the project files for this bubble scene, you can find them on my Patreon. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful, feel free to leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you.